Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, September 16th. I'm Donna Will, Professional Development Coordinator for the Developmental Disabilities Administration. We welcome you to the Maryland Community of Practice for Supporting Families webinar series. This is webinar number 9, Expectations Matter. My life, my choice, my plan, the basics. This session is being facilitated by Mary Anne Kane-Breschi, Director of Family Supports for DDA. Our guests today are Gail Godwin, Executive Director of Shared Support Maryland, Inc., and Mel Smith, Self-Advocate, and Babbette Smith, Parent and Support Broker and owner of Intentional Support. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a few things about the webinar. All participants are in listen-only mode. There are 2 options for listening to the webinar by computer and smartphone. There's a handout for the webinar, and it should be in the handout section, but I think I didn't upload the new one, so I'll fix that in a second. So we are recording the webinar, and we are posting those on the DDA website. And if we have time at the end, we'll take questions that relate to the webinar. If you have a question regarding services and supports, please contact your local regional office. And if you have questions related to Appendix K, please submit those to dda.toolkitinfo@maryland.gov. We are interested in highlighting how people with disabilities and their families are supporting and caring for one another during this pandemic throughout the webinar series. If you're interested in sharing your story, please contact Mary Anne Kane-Breschi directly at mary.kane-breschi@maryland.gov or me, donna.will@maryland.gov. So now I'd like to introduce Mary Anne Kane-Breschi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Donna. On behalf of the Maryland Community Practice for Supporting Families, welcome to our webinar today. My name, as Donna said, is Mary Anne Kane-Breschi. My husband and I are the parents of 4 adult children. Our youngest, Maggie, who's 28, has multiple disabilities. I am the Director of Family Supports here at the Developmental Disability Administration, as well as a Charting the Life Course Ambassador. The purpose of this series is to support families, however they're defined, as they support their family members with intellectual and developmental disabilities across the lifespan to live their lives, their best life, their lives of their choosing. We discuss and address a variety of topics and concerns individuals and families have faced and are facing related to COVID-19, as well as just life in general. And we do this with invited guests and subject matter experts and through the lens of Charting the Life Course framework. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Charting the Life Course, it is a set of universal principles and tools. It was developed out of the University of Missouri, Kansas City, their Institute for Human Development, and their Family to Family program. And it was developed to help people with developmental disabilities and their families create a vision for their good life. Think about what they need to know and do, navigate and develop supports and resources, and discover finally what it's going to take to live their lives of their choosing and to be able to do it. Not only do these principles support individuals and families, but these principles inform the work of the Maryland Community of Practice for Supporting Families, as well as that of the Developmental Disability Administration, as we work to create regulations, policies, and practices to better support families with, to support people with developmental disabilities and their families across the lifespan. The fundamental principle of Charting the Life Course, which states that all people have the right to live, love, learn, work, and play, and pursue their aspirations, is critical to planning and creating one's best life. Regardless of where you or your family member might find themselves, whatever life stage you're in, you need a vision. And your expectations matter. Expectations, in fact, often determine our vision. So this principle reminds us of who we are, and it is the impetus for our conversation today. And so here today, we're going to have a dynamic, informative discussion on person-centered planning. Families and individuals will learn about what is a person-centered plan, what is it, its purpose, and their role in its development. You'll also learn how to work together with your team to create a plan that is reflective of the person, based on those things that are important to and for him or her. And in turn, a plan that really does reflect and drive the services and support that they'll need, which will enable them to live their good life. So with that, and without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mel Smith. Mel, would you like to wave hello? And then Babbette Smith, parent and owner of the and a support broker. I can't see you all, so if you can say hi instead, that would be great.
Okay. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good. And Gail Godwin, Executive Director of Shared Support Maryland.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Sure. I want to thank you all for being here today with us. And then with that, I'd like to ask if you can start by telling us about Expectations Matter.
Yes, well, welcome. We are glad to see you here today. We're here to talk about person-centered planning. We're here through a grant from the Maryland Developmental Disabilities Council, and we're teaching how to plan your life to everyone who wants to learn in Maryland. Thank you for coming. This is the shortened 1-hour module. For a more in-depth review of what we talk about today, there is a 2-hour version of this. So real quickly, I'm Babbette Smith, as Mary Anne said, and I am a support broker at Intentional Supports, and this is my daughter, Melanie, who is a self-advocate. And in this training, we're going to talk about you. So we want you to know that you, when we reference that, are the person or the family using services and planning your future. There are other people that might be in your team that support you and you trust. That could include your family, friends, support staff, guardians, and others. But first thing we want to do is we want to show you how you can be so different and why it's important that plans are individualized. So I look at person-centered planning as the vehicle that takes you through a good life. So we're going to do a quick poll because we just want to see how different everyone's vehicle would be that they use to get to a good life. So Patricia, could you pull up the poll now, please? Okay, you're going to see we have 5 vehicles. We have a truck, a smart car, a sports car, a minivan, and a monster truck. So if you could pick, which car are you? We'll take just a few minutes to give the audience time to pick.
Babbette, are you seeing this, the poll?
I do see the poll.
Okay. I'm not seeing it. Okay,
Maybe
that's
just a
okay.
few more seconds, Patricia, and then we'll see if we can get our answers.
Sounds good.
Okay, do we have answers?
We are people still, looks like they're coming in.
Okay.
For 56% have voted of the people who are on the call.
Okay, maybe
So,
just a few more seconds, minutes then.
okay, so far 61 people have voted.
And voting is anonymous. No one's going to see what you picked.
Correct. Let me know when you want me to close it.
Are they still coming in?
I think we stopped. at
Okay,
66.
then let's check our answers.
Did it show?
No, we're back to our slides.
Okay. Let me just sure. I thought that we did. I'm not sure what happened to it. Oh, here we go. Can you see? Can you see it?
Can you see the answers, Patricia?
I can. Yeah. So
You just want to tell us what they were?
Sure. Let me just be sure because they we have that 30. We have hold hold on, just 1 second. They're still uploading one more time again. Just wait 30 seconds because it's loading.
No
I just wanna
problem.
make sure it's loaded until we had the 66% votes on it. Okay, so it looks like we had 31% pick the red truck, the pickup truck, and then we had 6% who did the small green car.
Okay.
And then we had 27% who did the red sports car.
Okay.
And then we have 30% who did the silver minivan.
Mhm.
And then we had 5% who did the blue monster truck.
Is that 5%?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much.
Sure. Do you want me to repeat any of the numbers yet?
I think I got them. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we can go back to the presentation then.
Sure thing. And Babbette, can you tell everyone about the history of person-centered planning?
Sure, Mary Anne. Real quickly, let me talk about this poll for just a moment.
I'm sorry.
When we get back to our presentation.
Okay.
Patricia, can you put us back to our presentation, please?
Well,
Sure.
Babbette, I have the presentation. You're not seeing it?
No,
No,
I just
we're
see
not.
the poll.
Oh, you have to close out the poll.
I did. I closed out the poll.
You have to hide the poll. Okay. We apologize, everyone. We're going to figure this out in just a sec. Let me.
While you're working on that, Mary Anne, I'll just briefly talk about this, if that's okay, while you're in the
Please do.
background there fixing the poll. We do this poll because we want to show you how diversified everyone's ideas are. And, you know, 31% of the people have a pickup truck. That's how the vehicle they would use to get through life. Perhaps they feel like they have, they need something big and sturdy to really help them. Melanie and I each have different preferences. I'm a minivan. I love the storage in it. I love how the gas mileage is. Melanie's a monster truck and she loves monster trucks. So she's in that very low percent. So if her plan was built around everybody else, her needs wouldn't be met. She wouldn't be driving the correct vehicle to get her to a good life. So that's the reason we wanted to share this poll and show you that we're all different and all of our plans need to be different. So thank you for participating in that, and hopefully we'll be able to get the presentation back in just a moment.
Thank you,
we're working on
Babbette.
that now. Go
Terrific.
ahead. Oh, Mary Anne, can you go back and do presentation? Now Donna's going to end and make you a presenter, and that way you can show your presentation. Okay, just give us a few seconds.
Okay. Are you asking me to get out and come back in, Patricia?
No. Stay in. There you go.
Okay.
Now you're back. And now you can go to the next slide. Now we're now, and there were answers to the poll. Now go to the next slide. There you go.
There
now
we
you're
go.
good to go, Mary Anne.
Terrific. Terrific. Okay. All right, Babbette, can you tell us about the history of person-centered planning?
Sure. Let me give you, this is just a brief history. In the past, services were often based on disability, not people, and the plans were written by people who didn't know the person. They were written by doctors, social workers, and others, and families weren't really involved in the planning process, and they really didn't question professionals. People didn't really have many rights or choices about what was in their plan, and they didn't even see or know what was written about them. And all over the world, including Maryland, that is changing. So we're very fortunate that those changes have been made.
And then Gail, can you tell us a little bit more about person-centered planning?
Yes, person-centered planning is directed by you. It's a plan that develops for now and the future about what's important. And the future is relative to everyone. You might want to plan for the next week. You might be someone who needs to plan for the next hour, or really thinking ahead for a year and beyond. You want to think about what's important to you, what can be changed, what you might want to change, parts of your life that you want and need to stay the same. It shows that you own it. A person-centered plan is never the same from person to person. Questions might be similar, but the information that you have in your plan is entirely different because we are all so different. Others may offer to help and should do what they offer to do. So we're going to talk a lot about accountability today as well.
Terrific. Babbette and Mel, can you tell us about rights? What rights does the person have in the development or in the process of this planning?
The first thing is you are in charge and you have the power. You have the right to have family involved and they may be in charge. You have the right to privacy and confidentiality in your plan. You can choose to have others be involved but not be in charge. You decide what to talk about, you decide what not to talk about, and you decide who you want to talk about certain things. And Melanie is can tell us, Melanie, who's in charge?
Money.
Melanie is in charge of her plan. That is correct.
Yes.
You can choose how long and how often you meet in your planning process. You lead your plan. You can have training to help you advocate. You have the right to supported decision making, someone who helps you make your decisions. You may want to lead your plan versus having someone else talk to you.
Yep.
You might want to choose to have someone else lead it instead of you doing it. You can have family advocacy. You have the right to have an advocate with you. You have the right to not have negative consequences or effects by speaking up for yourself, like being ignored, being asked to be quiet, or being told to save your input for another time. And you can choose how long and how often you meet in your planning process. So, next slide, please, Mary Anne. Okay. Communication. Yeah, communication is very important. We believe that every single person in the world communicates. Even if people do not speak, they have something to say. In Melanie's case, she has a processing delay. So when she is spoken to, she needs a few minutes to respond, and that needs to be respected. Everyone has a different style of communication. And we believe that that's important. And if you work from that premise, then you work differently. When you realize that you need to take the time to understand and to respect someone's style of communication, then how we support them and it changes.
Babbette, I wanted to ask, so a lot of people, people with disabilities and families don't know that they can actually prepare for this planning meeting or several planning meetings that they might have. They don't know how to or what even to expect before they might have a meeting and begin to start the planning process. Can you talk about that a little bit? Or maybe that's Gail. I'm sorry, Gail.
Yeah, Gail's going to tell you about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of my favorite topics. Just preparation, just in general, I think could take much longer than the planning meeting or planning sessions themselves. They really help to make your planning with your team as organized as it can be, and really be on the topics that you want it to be about. So it really helps with being efficient and being really part of your own plan. So the first part of that is choosing your team. You can really do these things in different orders, so this is one of them. You choose your team. You choose who is in a planning session with you. You decide who you're going to talk to and about your plan and get advice from. You get to choose who knows you best. Very often we find ourselves in meetings with people And sometimes you don't even know someone personally and why they might be there. It is your right to be able to ask and make a decision whether or not they can stay. All of those things should be vetted with you before an actual planning session, or even when information is being discussed. People should be advocating with you, not for you. That is a big difference. When someone's advocating for you without permission from you, then they're in charge. So that is a real trusted relationship where you are choosing people that advocate for you. I'm sorry, with you. People who are paid to work with you. That could be a coordinator of community services. It could be a supports planner. If you're getting services from CFC, which is Community First Choice, or support broker, or provider agencies managers, provider agency direct support. These are all people that you can and have the ability to invite from all kinds of parts of the service system. There are also other team members. I think we went through some of these. In addition to that, regular people in the world. If you're looking for a new place to live, pull in a realtor. They can help you find a house. They can help you find the best place to rent because they have that information at their fingertips. Maybe a web developer could help you make a website for your hobby or business. A neighbor or a friend who has a hobby they can teach you. So be really creative in thinking about who can help and who those people can be to help you reach the things that you want to in your life.
Mel and Babbette, sometimes people feel that there isn't enough time and that they need to adhere to other time frames, and often that means that they miss out or they don't understand the process. Also, sometimes people aren't as involved as they might like to be in terms of the planning and the preparation for other reasons, and but somehow they're still expected to follow a process that they might not truly understand. Can you speak to this a little bit?
Sure. You need to take as much time as you need. Remember, you are in charge, and one of the things you're in charge of includes the timing, the amount of time that's spent in preparing for your plan. So take as much time as you need. You should see all of your paperwork before you meet at least 2 weeks ahead of time, but as much time as is needed. If you know what questions will be asked about your future, then you can start working on those answers before the meeting. And you can always sit down with your coordinator of community services or your supports planner or another team member and talk and think ahead of time and plan out your answers before the actual meeting.
And Babbette, it's also true too that you can meet several times throughout the year and not necessarily meet in person. You can do phone calls, you could Skype. I mean, there are a variety of ways in which you can have discussion that really goes towards the preparation of this final planning meeting. Isn't that true?
That's correct. That's correct. And everyone needs a different amount of time. So you might be able to go very quickly through your planning process, and that's okay. But if you need a little bit more time, that's fine. You're in control of that.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the next. There we go.
So everyone may need a little more time. You might be affected differently by your disability or have something else that impacts the amount of time you're going to need. And your team should make sure that the planning process is easy for you to understand. So be sure to take as much time as you need. There may be words in your plan that you don't understand, and you can certainly take the time to ask the meaning of those words before you make any decisions. So you can always make an agenda and a preparation checklist ahead of time. And why would you do that? So you know what you're going to cover. So you can keep track of where you are in the process, and so you don't miss anything. Everyone's different. You might have things that you don't want to talk about. You might have things that are very important that you don't want to miss talking about. So examples of things that you might want to discuss are definitely who you are and who you want to be. You want to talk about your vision for the future. You want to talk about things that you want to make sure in your plan. You might not want to talk about your dating life, your personal family life, or medical information. So in Melanie's case, when we're preparing for her plan, we like to take kind of a snapshot to show team members about who she is. So Melanie does have a visual impairment, so I'm going to ask her if she can explain the pictures to us here a little bit, even though they're going to be a little hard for her to see. So Mel, can you tell us what you're doing in these pictures? Can you tell us what you're doing?
Lake.
You're at the lake, that's right. You're at the lake in Daddy's what?
Good.
You're fishing. And are those things you like to do?
No fun.
Okay, so Melanie likes to be outside. You can see that from the pictures. She likes to spend time fishing in her dad's boat on the lake. She likes to go to the store and do what? What are you doing?
Go. Look.
Yes, at the lake. What is this picture? Are you shopping?
Shopping.
Shopping, that's right.
Yes.
All right, could we see the next slides, please, Mary Anne? She likes to spend time in her community. So can you tell us about this picture?
Sushi.
You're with Susie, who's one of your friends, and what are you doing?
Go.
And yeah, the next one, you're in the little car. What are you doing with Susie? On a road trip with Susie. So just by this quick snapshot, we can see a little bit more about who Melanie is. She likes to be outside. She likes to wear bright clothes. She likes to spend time with her friends and family. She volunteers by collecting pop tabs for the Ronald McDonald House. And so this is one way you can prepare for your meeting, is just to simply share some pictures, because they can certainly show people who don't know a lot about you a little deeper insight into who you are. So thank you for that, Mary Anne.
Sure. Women.
So who can you call? You might have challenges preparing for your meeting. And certainly you can call your coordinator of community services, your supports planner, your support broker, provider agency staff, agency organizations like People on the Go or Disability Rights Maryland, the DDA regional office, especially the advocacy team, your IEP chairperson if you're still in school. You can ask family and friends. You're certainly welcome to ask for help before it's time for your planning meeting.
Gail, can you talk about some rules and guidelines and whether or not a person can make, does the person have the right to make decisions about how the meeting is going to run, such as when and where to have the meetings?
Yes, I would love to talk about that. One thing that you can keep in mind, you are able to devise rules and guidelines for your own meeting. They're nice because I guess one good example is most of us love our phones. Most of us love our computers, tablets, and we have several of them in front of us at almost any given time. And it has become really distracting for people in meetings trying to have them and have the attention of the people that they really wanted to be there and get moving. So one rule and guideline could be that silencing phones or putting them in your bags, and keeping your attention at the meeting. It does help because you will then be able to go through the meeting without having to correct anyone or make anyone feel uncomfortable. You can just refer back to the guidelines that make sure you just want to keep things on track and everyone is on the same page. So that's just one example. Others are things like you are in charge of the meeting. All decisions need to come back to you to make final. It could be about where the meeting is, the noise and the comfort level in the room, and things about your communication style. Maybe it takes some time between the question and your answer, so that you need to just remind people not to talk during that time or move the agenda forward. Next slide.
Thank you.
Mhm. You can decide where to have your meeting, which is really exciting. We want people to know that you can have it in places where you're most comfortable being yourself. So if you're not a morning person, like I would hate to have an 8 a.m. meeting about myself. If someone needed me to be at theirs at 8, I would do everything I can to do that. I might even say I'm not going to be best at your meeting either. That's probably fair to say if that's your team member and they really want you there at your best. So the time of the day, there could be lots of reasons why different times matter. It could also be we don't want to ask people to come off of their paid job or out of school. And then the actual place at your job, people might want to meet on their meeting time, their break time, in your home instead of someone else's office. During dinner, some people feel it's nice to have food during dinners or drinks during dinner, any kinds of drinks during dinner or happy hour. Places of worship at your local park. One of the nicest meetings I'd been to was on the pier in Havre de Grace. I'll never forget it. It's just lovely. And it really helped just calm people down. It was a meeting where there was some conflict, and I think there were a lot of people worried about being in public. But it really did exactly what, if you know the pier in Havre de Grace, like what you would hope it would do for everybody. So really nice. That is all up to you.
Wow, this is great information. Can we recap, maybe do a talk about what an agenda, a quick agenda might look like for someone?
The most important thing you need to remember is that you are in control. This is your life that's being planned. You have your own dreams. Remember, you might be driving a monster truck and not a minivan. So you need to remember that this is the vehicle that's going to get you to your good life, and it needs to be all about you. Your team exists to support you. You're in control. They are supporting you. And brainstorming always helps everyone. So the more information you can get from different sources certainly is going to help. So let's look at a quick agenda that Melanie uses for her person-centered planning meetings. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Oh, well.
Yeah, we don't, yeah.
Okay. For Melanie's agenda, let's just talk real quick. She likes to introduce team members. Sometimes there may be a new team member that doesn't know everyone. So certainly that's always one of the first things that we do. The second thing we do is we talk about her future. What is her vision? What does her good life look like? We might, on her plan, talk about her new job opportunity. The fact that she is working her first real job. She is, participating in this webinar. So we'd certainly want to share that. We would want to talk about her volunteer opportunities. What is she doing in the community? She loves to receive praise. She loves to spend time with people. So collecting pop tabs and delivering them certainly meets her definition of working towards a good life. We would want to do any updates. Does anything need changed in the plan? In her case, we do talk about health issues. She recently lost vision in her right eye. That's certainly something that's going to impact her plan forward. So that is something we would want the team members to know about. There are health issues that you might not want to talk about, and that's okay too, but some of them may impact services, and so you certainly want to bring them up. We want to talk about her outcomes. Is she meeting her goals? What do we need to do to help her meet her goal? We want to talk about her budget. What does it look like? You know, are we spending money or are we not spending money? Do we need to look at different services? Do we need to decrease some services? So those would be the main topics that we would talk about in her person-centered planning. We can certainly talk about others as they come up. When you talk about one item, sometimes that can morph into a different item that certainly needs discussed. But you are in control. You talk about what you want to talk about, and it is up to you to make all the decisions. So Melanie, who is in charge? Melanie is in charge. That is right. Thank you, Melanie.
So Babbette and Mel, let's talk about the annual planning meeting itself. We've talked about the history. We've talked about the rights people have during the planning process and the preparation. But can you talk a little bit about the planning process itself?
Sure. We talked a little bit about what would be on Melanie's agenda. So if we can look at that, we want to talk about the purpose of a planning session. Next slide. It's to talk about your strengths and talents, to talk about how you want to live your life, what is going to lead you to a good life. It's to help you make decisions. It's to listen to what you want to communicate, to share what is in your best interest. And you want to acknowledge and support your choices, interests, dreams, and visions. So the purpose of the planning session mainly is to get to know you and to talk from that to move forward. There are some ways to keep your meeting on task. You can use your agenda. Melanie always has an agenda printed up and it's given out to the team members or it's emailed to them since we're doing meetings virtually so that they can certainly have that in front of them. There are things such as a parking space, which means when something comes up in the meeting that's not really related to the discussion that you're having at the moment, you can write it down and park it off to the side and come back to it later. You can use a talking stick, which Melanie has her talking stick here, that says no one talks unless they have the talking stick in their hand. Sometimes if you're doing a Zoom meeting or another meeting, you can certainly ask everyone to mute until it's their time. You can give people group work. If you know individuals know a lot about a certain subject, you could certainly ask them to talk about it amongst themselves to try to come back with some other ideas. So you can do some group work. Next slide, please.
Sure.
Planning and reviewing is very, very important. You always want to review everything because it's very important what's in your plan. You want to make sure that you're asking questions, you're listening to the answers, you're learning from the answers, and then you're taking action on what needs done. So you want to talk about what's keeping things from doing what you want, what's helping you do the things you want, and how can your team best support you? What can they do to help you reach your goals? And the planning, I'm going to let Gail tell you about that. The time.
The time, yes. I thought we were at the time. Yes. Go ahead. Gail, yes, if you could talk about the timing and how people can take their time and they have time to do the things that need to be discussed and need to be done.
Sorry, I was on mute. Did you hear the whole thing? No.
No.
Just kidding. No, I'm not done. I haven't started.
Okay.
So the time frames if you or your family member are involved in any type of service in human services, and includes medical, school, voc rehab, you are probably very used to hearing about annual meetings and annual plans. That is a marker because that is the way that many other systems measure progress and determine how services will go based on your determination of those things. Those are systems guidelines. That does not mean that you cannot plan more often or get together more often. So you're able to get together every day. Should you choose, you might have a tired team, but you'll keep things on track. But you might find a schedule that works for you so that things continue to move and you can continue to talk about things that might be in the way. So think of an annual as someone else's idea. If you are in a service, you have to meet that need for the service, but for you, you can do it more often. So not only that, you can, so your plan, we also talk about the planning meeting as if it's one and done. The planning session, or your meeting or your plan itself, the plan on paper or on your computer is like an end output. It is not the end of everything. So it is really notes about your planning, and there can be multiple meetings that lead up to that particular plan. You can also have meetings that are more than an hour. So when you are setting time frames or less than 15 minutes, you may like a meeting and have attention for a meeting for 15 minutes, and that should be your meeting. It should not be that you're asked to come in for the 15 minutes that you can tolerate, and then the rest of your team talks for the rest of the hour. That is something that we've seen, and that is not person-centered. That is team-centered in someone else's center. So think about that. If people need to meet 10 times for 15 minutes, that's your plan. If you feel like you can cover and want to get through a much longer period, you set the time frame. So these are all things, and then you also have a team to negotiate with. You may not have the ability, but that's because you've chosen people on the team that will work with you and set up good time frames. So just remember who's in charge of all of those time frames.
Terrific, thank you. So tell us a little bit about the action plan. What is it and how does it get developed?
An action plan, you may have seen it in a grid form, or you may have talked about it out loud, or you've written it on the back of a napkin. It talks about what you want to happen. It has action steps involved, and the more specific those action steps are, the more likely things will get done, because your team will understand what you want and how you want it to happen. What resources and plans of support can help. So it can list ways that can support the action steps. Maybe a resource is money, or a resource is a service you need, or maybe there's many types of resources, and the plans of support and people that can help. What you need that you don't have. So very often we start off with maybe you're eligible for a service, but it might be something that you don't need, even though you're eligible for it. So think carefully about that. What do you need as a resource? Identifying who will help you. We've talked a lot about your team and choosing, matching up action with the person that can do it. How will the team check in to see what you need? And that's a reason to either check in or meet more often before your actual meetings. What are timelines? If you have to move, you probably have some deadlines. If you're moving from an apartment that you're renting to another, there are timelines. Maybe you're graduating. So there could be things that drive the time in your action plans, or maybe you decided you wanted to learn something new and you're going to take 2 years to do it. How will you know if the goal's been accomplished? That is debatable between people, right? So you want to really define that and make sure that your team doesn't stop supporting you, or you don't stop, or maybe we can support you to keep going until we know you're satisfied with the end result.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to take it for just a moment and talk about the integrated STAR. Many of you have seen this. This is part of Charting the Life course, and the principle behind the integrated STAR is that all of us, disability or not, we all utilize all kinds of supports and services and tap into resources in order to get through our days, our weeks, our months, our years, and just and as we plan our lives, and beginning with our own strengths and assets, and looking at relationships and technology and community resources and eligibility specific supports when we need them. Babbette, I'm going to ask you for a moment to talk about, I'm going to ask you and Mel to talk for a moment about Mel, one of Mel's integrated support stars. And as you talk, I will populate. So here we go. We begin with Mel at 36.
Okay. Well, the first thing we see, Mel is in the center. She is what's most important within this building her star. So I always like to start looking at her strengths and assets because they kind of give a definition of who she is. She makes choices and decisions. She does do that on her own. She can communicate verbally with some signing. We just may need to give her a little more time. She has great social skills and manners. You won't meet anyone who's any more polite than she is. She's good at practicing her everyday living skills. She has a great attitude. She likes trying new things. She likes learning. She likes to cook, and she loves interacting with people. So those are just some of her personal strengths and assets. So after we look at that, the next thing we're going to look at is her relationships. Who's important in her life? Who's going to help support her as she moves towards her good life? She has her parents. She has myself and her father, my husband, 2 sisters, a brother-in-law who she has a great relationship with, and a nephew who she's found to be pretty special. You may have seen him in the car with her, the little car. Her grandparents, she has other family. She has her friend Suzanne, who she likes to go bowling with and on road trips. She has other friends. She has her direct support professionals, such as Nellie, who's also a friend, and other friends of the family. So she has a great system of support in her relationships. Okay, next we're going to talk about technology. Melanie has some fine motor issues. She has cerebral palsy. So some of the things that help support her are she has an iPad, she has a picture phone, she has apps on her iPad, she has a DVD, VCR, TV, karaoke machine, which is very important to her as one of her goals would be to be a rock star. So often we'll see her with her microphone singing. She has a portable music system that we take outside, an adaptive mouse and switch, which when she is presenting on our own, she uses the mouse to advance the slides. She has a portable DVD player that we can take with her, an electric toothbrush, which you wouldn't think about something like that under technology, but certainly technology supports the whole person. We have automatic doors on the van, so she can push a button to get out of the van. She has a debit card that she uses, and she has a relay emergency button that we're working on if she would get in an emergency situation that she can push that will get her help. So she has a lot of technology in her life, and it changes all the time. So certainly we'll be adding to this as technology advances. So after that, we're going to look at community resources. What does she experience in the community? She volunteers, she collects pop tabs, she does deliveries for people who can't get out of their home. She'll pick up groceries to deliver to them. So she runs errands for people. She, before COVID hit, she got a weekly massage, which was very important to her. She likes to go to the hair and nail salon. Usually she has color in her hair that matches her shirt, but we haven't been able to do that since COVID hit. She likes to go to the bowling alley, the library. She shops at Browning's. People at Browning's know her by name. People at the bowling alley know what shoe size she wears and what food she's going to order. So when she comes in and they say, "Hi, Mel," and they already know what's going to happen next. She likes to go fishing and camping. She likes to go to church and do Bible studies. Outdoor activities are very big for her, and she likes to collect pop-tops for the Ronald McDonald House. So she certainly spends time in her community, and we're still trying to, yes, that's right, she says, we're still trying to participate in many of those activities that we can right now. Excuse me. And lastly, we're going to look at eligibility specific supports. So what supports are she eligible for through either a waiver program, through SSI, and all those different areas. So she does participate in the Community Pathways waiver. She's in self-directed services. She receives SSI. She has, excuse me, she has Maryland Physicians Care. She has a CCS. She has her personal care providers, which Nellie is here supporting her today. She has a relationship with the pharmacy that provides her pill pack so that her doses are individually, can be given just when we tear off a pack. She goes to occupational therapy. She's participated in PT, and of course her doctors and her other therapists. So she certainly has some support there too. Now, I do want to note that when filling in this star, to me, it's important to fill in all of the points and leave eligibility specific at the end. Because certainly when you're building your dream for your life, your dream can never be too big. So you want to build your dream first and then see what else can support you eligibility wise. I kind of tell people it's if you want to be a rock star, your bank account says you can't be a rock star, don't stop trying to be a rock star. So.
Well said. Well said. Okay.
Here is just a quick outcome that we can talk about. It's a visual representation of an application for employment. And the outcome is what is in the orange box, which is what are we looking for? Jack will get a job working as a stock clerk at a grocery store near his house. Gail, could you tell about those steps, please? Unmute, please.
Thank you. Jack will submit employment applications weekly. So if Jack were doing this himself, this is his own goal set. If he had a job coach helping, the job coach would know exactly how to support Jack. His resources are a one-stop center where all the job needs are met. You can develop a resume there. You can look online for jobs. You can take courses that can help your skills. The job hub or using the integrated star. Progress knows that he says Jack will receive a letter offering him a job. Progress is not that, according to Jack, is not having 10 interviews. Progress is landing the job.
Okay.
You okay?
Okay.
So let me ask you this. Often, I speak with folks who have not seen their plans. You do this preparation, you have the plan, and the plan is submitted without a final review. There are times that happens for, the family might not see it, the person might not see it. Can you speak about that or comment on that?
Sure. You certainly have the right to see your plan before it's submitted. You can ask for every draft. A plan usually isn't finished just immediately. So as the things are changed in it, you certainly want to see each one of those drafts. You want to ask for those copies. Make sure you get a copy of your first draft. Make sure you get a copy of your last draft. You want to make sure that the plan reflects what you said you needed and what you wanted. And a good action plan is going to be clearly defined. It's going to have timelines, steps that are focused on the future. It's going to be measurable, and it's going to be updated as needed. So you need to look for all of that regarding your plan.
Can you guide us through a quick action plan, Gail, or just speak about one?
Sure. Very often, just if we were to think about Jack's outcome of getting a job, you would have your team, if you're using a team for that particular thing, brainstorm the action plan. So you can think about your own. Are we going to use the chat for this?
We're not able to, no.
Okay. So just thinking about something you would like to accomplish. And sometimes you can get through an action plan. We love to use brainstorming. And we've also used social media for brainstorming. Naturally, we don't, write super detailed information about a person, but if we are looking to help someone find a job in computers or art world, we would have something specific enough so that lots of people can weigh in and give us some new ideas. So brainstorming is a really great process in action planning. Just a thought, just a little example.
Terrific, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mel and Babbette, can you talk about accountability and follow-up?
Sure.
Sorry.
You should have a clear plan forward with your plan. And you decide when each task needs to be completed. You are the one who makes sure the timelines are reasonable, and it's important that everyone does their best to follow the timelines. For example, Melanie's DSP might need to contact Ronald McDonald House before September 25th to see if they're accepting pop tabs, because Melanie has an appointment in Morgantown on the 28th, and we'd like to see whether she would be able to deliver them. So that is very time specific. We have the dates, we know who's going to do it, we know what they're going to do it. So that helps you when you know those specific guidelines. So timelines, remember, they can be changed. You need to see, does something need done right away? Is it something that can wait? Make sure that they're followed. And it's very important everyone does their best to follow the timelines, because sometimes one person needs to accomplish something before the next person can do their part. Next slide.
Sure.
Remember, the plan should always reflect who you are at this exact moment. Things change. Melanie had a visual change. That means things in her plan can change. So certainly your plan needs to be about who you are at the moment. Day-to-day life occurrences, they change. So a plan can be changed at any time. How do you change your plan? Talk to the team. You can contact your CCS or your supports planner to let them know. And depending on what the change is, they'll know what all needs to be involved to make that happen. So there are certain ways that you can keep accountable and stay on track. You can certainly use tools such as a calendar. You can use web-based tools. You can use a just pencil and paper, or as Gail said, the back of a napkin. So you certainly want to write things down to make sure that the things are happening that are supposed to happen, and they're being done by the time that they need to be done. You can use online spreadsheets such as Google Sheets. You can use an Excel form. So certainly there are all different tools that you could check out to see what would help you the most. So you certainly need to keep in touch with your team members. You can mail the old-fashioned way. You can do phone calls. You can have conference and group calls. You can have follow-up meetings. You can use Facebook. You can use Zoom, as we're doing today, to make sure that you stay in contact with your team and let them know whatever the change is that you need or what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay. What about team members, particularly if you're struggling or have a problem with a team member? What can people do?
Prior to back a bit, Babbette and Mel talked about who can help you. So we'll skip that list, but just talking about how to ask for help. If someone is not communicating, you should talk to them and help see what might be the issue. Maybe you're nervous about approaching people because it's hard, especially when people are offering time to help you. You might feel a certain way about that. You can write a letter, send an email, call someone on the phone, or ask assistance from a friend. Sometimes team members just get caught up and, real life hits and they're not able to help you with something. That way you can reassign a task, or you can just say, it's okay, I can take it another week or two on this. So that kind of communication is really important in keeping things moving. That's the group. Yeah, let me just keep going. I see the time. Good. So any of these people from any of these organizations can help. The Centers for Independent Living are super helpful and often teach people advocacy and support in their plans. The DDA advocacy specialists in every region, similar work, and they know all of the DDA services. Quality Trust and Project Action, People on the Go, Disabilities Rights Maryland, Department of Rehab Services. So many people can be there to help.
Terrific, thank you.
So post-planning review, how can you keep members of your team accountable? We talked about this. We talked about the different ways that you can communicate with your team members. And you want to look at this after your plan. You always want to look, what can I change? What worked well? How do I need to do this better in the future? So certainly Think of all those things and remember that you are your own person. You're going to look at everything different. You're going to use different tools that work best for you. And you can find out what best works for you through trial and error, through practice, or through asking for help from one of your trusted friends, your family, your CCS, or anyone else. And pull all those tools together, and that'll help you keep members of your team accountable. And most importantly, Melanie, who's in charge?
Look,
Yes. Who's in charge?
look.
You are working. Who's in charge?
Gosh. Let me see.
Melanie's in charge. Melanie Smith. That's right. Melanie Smith is in charge. Thank you, Mel.
Thank you.
You know.
Gail, Babbette, and Mel, I want to thank you for being here today. And normally we would take questions, but we are at 1 o'clock, and unfortunately we don't have the time to do so. I'd like to just thank you. And
Thank you so much.
I would just for a moment like to draw attention to this slide here for folks in the audience. There are additional resources here for you regarding person-centered planning. So to please take note, and you'll receive this PowerPoint along with other handouts in a follow-up email from Donna. I want to thank you all for being with us here today and invite you to join us for our next webinar on September, I'm not able to see it. Sorry about that.
September 30th and
September 30th, thank you.
visit verification.
Yes, thank you very much. My screen was blocked for some reason. And I also like to invite you back in October when Gail and Babbette and Mel will be back with us for a 2-hour training where we will explore person-centered planning in more depth and have activities and just help you to develop your own person-centered plan. So with that, thank you and have a great day. Take care.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Go. Welcome.